He pulled out the fake teeth and discovered that the patient had maggots underneath the dentures in her mouth. People in healthcare, what is something you never thought you would have to tell another adult? A couple instances come to mind. Don't have sex 6 hours after you delivered a baby. Coffee creamer is not the same as infant formula. Please do not feed your day-old newborn International Delight. Probiotics are different from antibiotics. Probiotics do not cure syphilis. Patient had been referred to my pharmacy by his physician for an over-the-counter enema. The guy was not the sharpest tack, and apparently either his physician did not explain it well or the guy didn't listen, but our conversation went like this. Patient, so I drink down this whole bottle and then I'll have to poop? Me, no sir, this is an enema. It is used rectally. Patient, confused, so what's that mean, I don't have to drink the whole thing? Me, no sir, you lie on your side and insert the applicator tip of the bottle into your rectum and squeeze the contents into your bowel. You'll then remain lying on your side and hold the enema in until you feel the urge to have a bowel movement. Patient, you telling me I gotta stick it up my butt? Me, yes sir, this is an enema and it is used rectally. There are detailed instructions and diagrams in the box. Patient, F you. And he stormed off. That was the last I saw of him. Not sure if he thought I was messing with him or what, but I hope he eventually got to poop. No, your teenage daughters cannot share a single prescription for birth control pills. Back in the late 90s, I was a counselor and educator at a women's health clinic in the northeastern US. One day, a woman came in with her two daughters, 15 and 16. The 16-year-old was already our patient and on the pill. The mom had found out the younger one was having sex, and wanted her to get tested for STIs. The mom proudly told me that she had put her younger daughter on the pill herself as soon as she found out she was sexually active. When I asked the mom who had prescribed the pill, she looked at me like I were an idiot. She told me that when you're on the pill, you only take it until you get a period, and then start back up a few days after the bleeding stops. Her daughters were just naturally in sync, so they could share a pack of pills for the month. The mom wouldn't listen to anything I had to say. The older sister looked like she understood completely how to take pills, that her mom was an idiot, and that her sister would be pregnant by Christmas. The younger sister looked like she would be surprised at Christmas. Fortunately, the PA saw the girls separately, and they each got their own pills. Worked in an optical practice in the UK. Man comes in complaining of bad vision. His astigmatism has increased by like 3 diopters. That's a lot and definitely shouldn't happen. Optician retested using different kit. Same result. Told him to come back in a week and we will retest it. This time we're looking at 4 diopters. They freak out. Recheck again, another optician checks it. Same result. They run through health, smoking, drinking, medicine. Nothing out of the ordinary. The guy looks stressed as hell, put his head in his hands and put his thumbs against the side of his eyes. The optician asks if he does that a lot. Apparently whenever he's stressed he pushes the sides of his eyes. He's done it so much that he has physically changed the front of his eyeball and ruined his vision. We told him to stop doing that. Never thought we'd have to tell another human being to not squeeze their own eyeballs. Also had to tell a kid to not look at laser pointers, but he was just dumb as hell. Older man, terminally ill. New Year's Eve. Presented to the ER in the company of a hooker. He had a finishing nail in his erect penis. He was interpenile sounding. He says, well, there was nothing else laying round. And I'm so messed up and can't feel a thing. Indeed, he was messed up. Cocaine, alcohol, Viagra and some hydrocodone. Poor dude just wanted one last boner. I told him, what is just a euphemism, man. Don't shove sharp things up your pee hole. He took it in stride. He was in the hospital for 2 days. The hooker basically stayed with him the entire time. Come to find out, she was the only one of the 3 hookers he had paid. She wasn't even the one who shoved the nail up there. I thought it was odd that she hung around until he told me how much he had paid them. Turns out the other 2 were hanging out at his house waiting for his return. I visited him before he was discharged. Dude popped some X right in front me and says, just getting a head start. No more sharp stuff. I promise, doc. Usually it goes along with after a car accident and their kids weren't in car seats/seatbelts, how their kids need to be in car seats. But it's summer, so a more seasonal example is the following. Me, so what's the problem today? Them, I don't know what's going on. I can't breathe. I'm having a seizure. Me, Has this ever happened before? Them, yeah, usually when I smoke crystal meth. Me, did you smoke crystal meth today? Them, yay, like 30 minutes ago. Why? Children's oral antibiotics prescribed for ear infections, which are usually pink, sweet, fruit-flavored liquids, are meant to be delivered into the mouth and not directly into the ear canal. Yes. This happens. More often than you can imagine. Don't douche with bleach. Patient had mixed bleach, fabric softener, Dawn dish soap, vinegar, and some water, just in case, and burned the bejesus out of herself after having a baby 3 weeks prior, because she was convinced people could smell her. She douched with it multiple times and came in when the burning toned down. Sent off to gynecological surgeon and never seen again. I took care of a paraplegic as a home health registered nurse. She was young, and she was attractive. She lived with her boyfriend and kept getting urinary tract infections. This isn't uncommon. She had a catheter and it's something that can be very hard for this population. Well, this patient was talking to me about her sex life and told me her boyfriend liked anal. She has no feeling below the waist. Then it hit me. I asked if he's going from anal to vaginal? She said she wasn't sure. So I went and asked him. I had to tell them both that is probably what is causing her urinary tract infections. They can't go from anal to vaginal. So, that's what I charted patient education was that day. I had to call her urologist and primary care to let them know we probably found the issue. We all tried to be professional but there was lots of awkward laughing. I worked in obstetrics for many years. I was taking care of a woman in her late 20s, definitely not a teen mom, married, with a job. She got to 10 centimeters so I did my usual speech about how to push effectively. She nods and pushes when I tell her and she did great, really moved the baby down. I'm excited but I notice she's whispering to her husband. He looks at me and says, "So why do you want her to do that?" I was a bit taken aback and very slowly explained that she had to do that to get the baby out. She asked if I was kidding. At this point I feel like I'm the butt of a practical joke, but it didn't stop. He kept asking if there wasn't a better way to do it and muttering that I was being ridiculous. She continued to push and thankfully didn't take long because she kept rolling her eyes at me. I was thrilled to hand this lovely couple off to the doctor. They looked slightly more convinced when he told her to do exactly what I had told her to do and then a baby magically appeared. If she'd ended up in a C-section I'm sure she'd have been convinced I had done it all to torture her. How does a woman make it into adulthood and normal society without knowing you have to push a baby out? You're 22, wash your penis. I swear, every time I've seen someone grossed out by foreskins, it's either because they've had a bad experience with someone who doesn't wash beneath it or because they just think it's normal for guys not to wash under it. I've literally had several American women tell me the latter twice and the former 3 times. Like holy hell, how do you not learn to wash your penis properly growing up? What the hell? I worked in hospital administration for nearly 2 years. While working on something I decided to take a break and go down to the cafeteria to get something to eat and not look at numbers. While there, a woman was on the phone with someone and was pretty openly talking about how she kept drinking the night before surgeries to calm her nerves, and how she thought it was ridiculous that the doctors couldn't or wouldn't just pump her stomach so they could get the surgery started. Now I don't know all of the details on what she was getting done, nor was I there for her presumed tirade on our doctors as she was prepped for whatever it is she needed done, but I am grateful I wasn't. She continued this conversation for probably a minute with her friend completely oblivious to how ridiculous she sounded. The 3 that come to mind for me are: 1. Trying to explain to a patient why it probably wasn't a good idea to eat a container of cottage cheese that had been sitting out on the counter all night. 2. The entire family of a lady with a pacemaker, they kept insisting that she did not have a history of heart problems. They were convinced that because the pacemaker helped her, that it meant she no longer had any kind of heart problem. 3. Family with a mom that was 650 pounds. And if they wanted to move her anywhere, they would have to call the fire department. They were always apologetic and such and said they just didn't know why she was so heavy and that she's tried everything to lose weight. But all around her bed is nothing but Butterfinger, Babe Ruth, Reese cup packages, fast food bags. I'm like, she can't walk on her own. Bring her a salad. All this junk and no movement is why she's so heavy. If you are at all squeamish, turn back now. My first job after graduating high school involved instrument sterilization at a dental office. One day an elderly woman came in with a complaint of chronic halitosis, bad breath, and stomach problems. Standard procedure for admitting a new patient is to take x-rays after removing all metals from the neck and up. The woman carefully pulled out her jewelry and hairpins and the panoramic x-ray was taken and quickly developed. With the imagery in hand, the tech noticed that the woman had not removed her upper denture. The tech returned to the room and let the patient know that she had accidentally left her dentures in and that the x-ray would have to be redone. At this point the woman expressed confusion about taking out her dentures. The creeping horror set in once the tech realized that the patient had never removed her dentures from her mouth for several years. Our dentist came into the room and explained proper denture care with her before explaining that he needed to have a look given the circumstances. He pulled out the denture and discovered, to his horror, that the patient not only had maggots underneath the dentures in her mouth, but that her hard palate had completely disintegrated. The miasma that swept through the office resulted in cancellations of all appointments for the rest of the day to ventilate the office and clean up all of the staff vomit. Yes, you have to wash your dentures daily. Old friend of mine is a nurse practitioner. She told me she once saw a patient, male, complaining of severe rectal itching and general pain. She is a very smart people person, she can read people very well. She got right to the point and asked him about his daily hygiene routine. She had a hunch based off his presentation that he was a man's man, ain't go gay stuff happening here. Long story short, when showering, he never cleaned his butt. Ever. He told her that it was homosexual to touch his anus. She had to explain to him that the severe rash and itching he had been dealing with for apparently years was a direct result of his perceived homo acts. She instructed him to go home, take a proper shower, and apply witch hazel for a few days. Amazing that a grown man thinks this way. Don't hide bottles of 5-hour energy in your vagina. My patient came in with a complaint of vaginal foreign body. Doc goes in to do the pelvic exam, pulls out an unopened, sealed bottle of 5-hour energy. Cue her explanation of hiding it from her spouse because he doesn't like for her to drink energy drinks. Then she asks for it back so she can drink it. Not my story, but my friend's, who is a doctor. One day an extremely obese lady came to the hospital with some kind of ailment, and it transpired that she needed an operation. This lady was too big to wash herself thoroughly beforehand, so the nurses did it. As they lifted up one of her enormous breasts, a TV remote control fell out and dropped onto the bed. She had a TV remote lodged in her body for God knows how long. She apparently wasn't especially embarrassed about this. The medical team had to have a word with her about maintaining basic hygiene standards, as well as asking for help with self-care when needed. Nurse here. I have to explain daily to patients that they can't eat before an operation. They're always saying things like, but if I ate and had an accident wouldn't they operate on me? I have to explain that in case of life and death situations the doctor takes some risks, but why risk during a routine operation? Wife had a baby. The process involved about 100 professionals telling never to shake my baby. Of course, I thought, everyone knows that. Wife's water breaks, we're in the hospital, and she's getting checked in. I'm there with 2 other soon-to-be fathers. A nurse comes by and almost casually starts giving us a basic rundown of what not to do. Stuff I've heard 100 times. We get to never shake your baby, and one guy looks confused. A bewildering conversation takes place where this man insists he's never heard of that. Must be cultural differences, insist everyone where he came from was shaken, and eventually is led away to talk to the doctor. I never saw him again, but I'm still scared for that baby. Well, it's highly unlikely, but it is possible for an 8-year-old to get pregnant. The reason your daughter is vomiting so much is because she is pregnant. The backstory ended up being that 8-year-old girl and 9-year-old boy discover that Tab goes into slot B and feels really good. Jumping from a first-floor balcony onto an alfresco dining shade umbrella below will not make you bounce up and down like you are on a trampoline. Instead, your 100 kilograms body will simply crash through the fabric onto the footpath below and break both your arms. You will not impress the ladies with this, like you originally intended, and besides, what exactly is a semi-obese man in his 40s still doing trying to impress women like that? What I actually said to him, which encapsulated all of the above, was, "What part of you thought it was a good idea?" Followed by, "And remind me how old you are again?" Newborns don't get gas because their mothers drink soda while breastfeeding. It's a bad idea to drink sodas while breastfeeding. That's because caffeine can pass to the child, not the bubbles. Also, hot baths aren't recommended while pregnant. That's because of the heat, not because your baby will drown. If you continue to insist on this gluten-free vegan diet for your infant, we will be forced to get CPS involved before he dies of malnutrition. No ma'am, there's no mystery or conspiracy here. Your daughter has to come to the ER every other week because she has asthma and you still smoke 2 packs a day inside the house. I see here your child is suffering from constipation. How long since his last bowel movement? I'm sorry, I must have misheard you. 30 minutes ago? Here in the waiting room? I'm going to be left out of case presentation. You came to the ER for calluses on the soles of her feet. Please tell me there's more. No, we do not keep a podiatrist on call overnight. Loved pediatrics. Hated their parents. And here is my own comment. I don't work in healthcare, but wash your hands before leaving the bathroom. Not only because you have touched your genital in the toilet, but because you touched your nasty smartphone screen, which is 3 times as gross as the toilet seat. I don't want to shake your sticky nasty penis hand. And how can you not like the feeling of clean hands?